Welcome back on Creeparch. What I'm about to tell you today isn't just a story. It's something I experienced firsthand. The Russian sleep experiment is one of the darkest, creepiest tales you'll ever hear. And today, I'm sharing every terrifying detail. I was there. Not as a scientist, not as a reporter, but as someone who witnessed the aftermath of one of the darkest experiments ever conducted, the Russian sleep experiment. It all started in the late 1940s, deep in a secret Soviet laboratory hidden away from the world. 5 political prisoners were chosen, men accused of threatening the state. They were promised freedom if they could endure 15 days without sleep. The catch? They were locked in a sealed chamber filled with an experimental gas designed to keep them awake. The room was bare. No beds, only books, blankets, a toilet, and enough food and water to last at least a month. Cameras were banned. Only microphones and thick glass windows allowed the researchers to observe without disturbing the subjects. At first, everything seemed normal. The prisoners talked about their pasts, their regrets, their fears. But after a few days, things started to change. By day 5, paranoia had set in. The prisoners stopped talking freely and instead whispered dark secrets into the microphones. One of them began to scream uncontrollably, pacing the room for hours. Strangely, the others didn't react, but instead covered the windows with pages smeared in their own filth, a horrifying sign of their deteriorating minds. Days passed. The screams stopped, replaced by eerie silence and unsettling whispers. Oxygen consumption was off the charts, as if they were all doing intense exercise, yet they never moved. On the 14th day, the researchers decided to test the subjects' limits. They announced over the intercom that the chamber would be opened if anyone complied. The reply was chilling. "We don't want to be freed." When the door finally opened at midnight, what they found was beyond comprehension. 4 of the 5 prisoners were alive, but what was left of them was barely human. They had torn off their own flesh, exposing muscle and bone. Their organs were mutilated, some even missing entirely, yet they begged to be returned to the gas. One soldier was seriously injured during the retrieval, attacked viciously by one of the subjects. The experiment spiraled out of control. The surviving prisoners displayed unnatural strength and resilience, fighting sedation and surgery with inhuman ferocity. One even smiled during a brutal operation without anesthesia, communicating only 2 words on paper: "Keep cutting." In the end, the few survivors were locked back into the chamber with the gas, pleading to stay awake forever. The officers involved soon questioned their own sanity. I can still hear the echoes of their screams. The lingering question: what horrors are we capable of when we stripped of sleep? I should have walked away. After witnessing what I saw in that chamber, any sane person would have. But I didn't. I needed answers. The scientists kept the last surviving subject sedated, barely alive. I was granted one final moment with him, not as a researcher, not as a witness, but as someone who needed to understand. I stood by his side, his body barely human, tubes in his veins, his chest rising in short, shallow breaths. Then, his eyes opened. I didn't expect him to still have strength, but he turned his head, looked right at me, and he smiled. "You smell it, don't you?" he rasped. "What?" "The gas, it's still inside you." My blood ran cold. "I was never out there," he whispered. "None of us ever were. This isn't about staying awake. It's about waking up. I backed away, but his voice followed. They didn't create monsters. They peeled them open. Then the machines flatlined. But I swear, even after he died, I heard him inside my head, repeating the same words. Stay awake. Stay awake. Stay awake. And ever since that day, I haven't slept longer than an hour. Not because I can't, but because I'm afraid of what I'll become when I do. That night, I tried to forget. I told myself it was the stress, the trauma, the madness, but the voices came back. Not just his, the others too, whispers, low, endless, circling my mind like vultures. I see them sometimes, in reflections, in shadows. Their eyes open wide, never blinking. And now I know. It wasn't just them. The gas didn't wear off. It spread. Every person who steps close to that chamber, every whisper recorded, every story told, it infects. And now that I've told you, you've breathed it in too. So if you're hearing whispers when the room is silent, if your heart starts racing for no reason, don't fall asleep. Not tonight. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to Creeparch for more. And if you dare, check out the next one.